Hi guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to Femhead. Today I want to talk about pumping, the mistakes I've made and the lessons I've learned along the way. I actually filmed this video a couple months ago and then I got super down on myself and I was like, who am I to give other people advice when I just feel like I'm not doing a good job? So then I didn't post it. So I decided to remake it with some additions now down the road. But you know what, I decided who better to give advice than someone that hasn't had the perfect go at it and has made mistakes. And I think if I can share some of the things that I've learned from pumping and breastfeeding and helping some people from making some similar mistakes to me, then it's all worth it. So I did the whole order your electric pump through your insurance before the baby comes, and I'm very grateful I did that because I do like my Spectra. That's the one I wanted. I worked hard to get it. Can I let you in on a little secret? I actually really hated when I had to exclusively pump with my Spectra. I don't know what it was about the whole setup, like having to be plugged in first before I got a pumping bra, having to sit there and hold it. But almost worse than like sitting there and having to hold it was to get the pumping bra out and get it all, in and finagled and zip it up and get it on your boobs and line it up. I just don't know why, but I really dislike that process, which is like in the grand scheme of things, get over yourself, Victoria. Like there's a lot bigger problems when it comes to the whole mothering thing, but something about that I just really didn't like. So I wasn't the biggest fan of pumping from the get-go, and I think that's why I didn't pump so much early on, but I'll get into that. I really didn't have any issues with like nipple pain when I was breastfeeding. There was a little bit of nipple pain really early on when he had first latched, like that initial like oof, like but it quickly went away, and then my nipples were just used to breastfeeding. And so while breastfeeding lasted, I loved it. I mean, there are the moments where you're just tired and trying to feed your baby in the middle of the night and all that stuff. But all in all, breastfeeding, so much more prefer that to pumping, and I really enjoyed it. But anyways, I didn't have any nipple pain with breastfeeding. But man, oh man, did I have nipple pain with pumping. And like I checked the phalange size, I tried a different phalange size, I lubed them up, I did the whole what you're supposed to do, and they just hurt my nipples. I think I probably could have played around a little bit more with like the suction and the vacuum and all that. But even when turning it down like really, really low, it still like bothered my nipples. So I don't know, it was probably user error on my part, and I probably should have played around with the settings a bit more, but just had a lot of nipple pain with pumping. So if you didn't watch my 4-month update video, which is where this all like stems from, long story short, Theo got really sick one day, was puking up everything, couldn't keep anything down, had a stomach bug, and because he was so low on like percentile, he dropped below the first percentile, he couldn't keep anything down, he got really dehydrated, and like it wasn't a good situation. So we ended up spending the night in the hospital, have him get an IV and just kind of like rehydrate and get back to the point where he could keep down food again. And so after that, I worked with my pediatrician and a dietitian, and we decided that I would pump, fortify my milk, and then bottle feed Theo to just get as many calories into him as possible to get him back above the first percentile, which worked. We got him to, I think it was a 3rd percentile, and that's kind of where he's hung out since then. And I went to see a lactation consultant around this time. I had planned to go see an LC before that, but then he got sick and it just kind of threw the whole thing off, and I was like, this has to wait. And they thought he had a weak tongue, and so that's why he wasn't able to get as much milk out. They looked at his lip, they looked at his tongue, and they didn't see any sort of like lip or tongue tie. They said that there is a possibility that they can have I can't think of a word now, but basically a tongue tie that's so far back that you can't see it. It could be that, but more likely he just kind of had a weak tongue. So we worked on that, but then also like I mostly just bottle fed him. Once we got him back to a good weight, my pediatrician said that I could go every other feed, like pump and bottle feed, breastfeed, pump and bottle feed, breastfeed. And I decided to just pump and bottle feed during the day and then breastfeed at night, because for me, breastfeeding was a lot less of a hassle than guessing when he was going to wake up, waking up 30 minutes before that or whatever it was to pump, get his bottle ready, and then come up and feed him. And so just being able to throw him on the boob in the middle of the night was so helpful. And then he learned how to sleep through the night, and that was like just shy of 6 months. So it was mainly just pumping and bottle feeding, because I really wanted to just know how many calories I was getting into him, because he was still just hanging out at that second, third percentile. And I was fine with pumping and bottle feeding. I would try to throw him on the boob every now and then, especially like the first feed of the morning. I would throw him on the boob, and then we would go downstairs and I'd give him a bottle. But that little sucker eventually just started looking at my boobs like, what are these things? What do you want me to do with these? Like, get these out of my face. And it was really kind of sad, because I love breastfeeding. And so for him to just not want to breastfeed anymore was really, really sad. And I still kind of get bummed out about it, but it's okay. He's fed, he's happy, he's good. So today is not going to be how to increase your supply and start pumping 1,000 ounces a day. Like, I don't have that advice for you. There are a lot of great videos out there of women who are able to pump a ton each day and the things that they have done that have worked for them. I've tried a lot of different things, but like this video is just not going to be that. My number one mistake and thing that I wish I could share with everyone is to start pumping sooner. Yes, when you first have the baby, in those first 2 weeks, your milk supply is regulating, and so you don't want to start pumping too soon, or you could create an oversupply, which then could cause issues. So wait for your milk supply to get established. But I wish I would have started pumping consistently at that 2-week mark, even if it was just like once a day, Victoria. Why didn't you just pump once a day and store that milk away in your freezer? Like, that's what I wish I would have done, and I will 120,000% do that with future children. Just even if it's once a day, pump, put that milk in a bag and store it in the freezer. Like, you honestly never know when you're gonna need it. And also, you might be one of those lucky people that just creates a ton of milk and is able to pump that and store that and donate it to a mom in need. Like, I think that is so amazing when people are able to do that. Be consistent with pumping or breastfeeding. Your milk supply depends on like a supply and demand. So how much you take out is how much milk you produce. Like, if you skip a feed or skip a pumping session, you're sending that signal to your body like, yo, we don't need this milk anymore. And so usually it's like, as they're sleeping longer at night and they skip a feed, if they skip that consistently enough, your body gets the message like, oh, I don't need to produce the milk for that feed anymore because he's sleeping. So as I'm editing this, I realized I forgot to share a story, and looking back, I think it's important because I think this is where I went wrong with my milk supply. So we went to England in December, and like, I brought my electric pump, I brought my manual pump, it was great. I was all set up, but just being like out and about and traveling, I didn't always pump consistently every 3 to 4 hours. And I think that was a huge mistake looking back. Sometimes I would skip a pump, or I'd go 6 hours, and knowing what I know now, I just wish I wouldn't have done that. And it's not like I was like, oh, well, I don't feel like pumping. I just was in a situation where it would have been really hard to pump, but I wish I would have made more of an effort. Just say like, screw it, Victoria, just put a swaddle around your neck or whatever and just pump that milk. Like, the things you learn, hindsight is 20/20, but I just really want to share my mistakes with new moms or moms to be, in hopes that I can save them from making the same mistakes that I did. So start pumping sooner, consistently, make it, even if it's just once a day, and do not skip pumping or feeding sessions unless your baby is sleeping through the night. Don't skip them during the day. Have a way to pump without electricity. I would argue a portable option. Like, yes, there are so many great bags to carry your electrical pump, and I know so many working moms have awesome setups where they take their electrical pump and all their bottles and their coolers and everything to the office with them, and they have a great setup. This is for like when you're quick running out to the store or whatever. It is a hassle and a half to try and bring in electric pump, especially if you don't have like a car adapter or a battery pack or any of that sort of stuff. And this frees you up to be so tied to a schedule. Like, if your baby isn't breastfeeding and is only bottle feeding and you're pumping, so you don't have to work around that schedule. A handheld pump is a must, in my opinion. The one that I went with is the Medela hand pump, and this thing is 100% a must-have for me. You can pump anywhere, no outlets, no electricity, no nothing. You can pump under a shirt, like covered. You can pump under a blanket, under a jacket, you name it. It's so portable. You control how quickly and how hard you pump, and that's my favorite thing about it. Like, I never ever had nipple pain with this pump, because when you're starting off and your boobs are like full and tender, you can pump more gently. Once you're further along your pumping session and you're trying to get the hind milk and they're more empty, you can get like those big, deep, long pumps. I could empty a boob so quickly with this. I can hold Theo with one arm or do something with one arm and pump with the other. Like, I know with a hands-free bra, you can have both arms, but you can still do stuff. You can move around. Like, you know, I've made coffee, I've made food, I've made bottles. Like, I've done stuff while pumping, and it's awesome. This is $30, but there's other manual pumps, but I highly recommend having one of these. Like, it's so easy to just throw in your purse, in your diaper bag, whatever. There's so many tricks out there that you'll see of how to increase how much you pump, your supply, all that stuff. One thing that I found that actually worked for me was massaging my boob. Some people massage them beforehand, some people massage during. Like, I don't have very big boobs, and once you put this on here, like, that is my boob. So what I found worked for me was to use like the phalange to massage. I would just move this around to kind of like massage the side. So I'd like move, and then pump, move, pump. And I found like I could get those last little drops out, that good hind milk. So that was something that worked for me, was like massaging as I'm pumping. The one you're gonna hear and the one you're gonna hate is drink more water. Like, if you're dehydrated, your body's not gonna have enough water to create milk. And I noticed this very drastically when I got the stomach bug that Theo had at 4 months. And I was just puking my life away. My supply went because I was so dehydrated, because it was such a struggle for me to like even get enough fluids in for myself, let alone like produce milk. So drinking water is very important. I like sparkling water. I would do like a lemonade water mixture, spice it up. And believe me, I hate when people tell me to drink more water, but I'm the one that's constantly telling myself to drink more water. One thing that I also noticed with my supply is it always dipped right around my period. I could tell my period was coming because my supply would dip. I just wouldn't pump as much as normal. There's not really anything you can do. Just take a deep breath, make sure you're taking care of yourself, drinking water, eating food, and your supply will come back up after your period. This is a great time to have a bit of a stash in your fridge or freezer to pull from when you're not pumping as much as your baby needs. Let go of the mom guilt. And it's not even like mom guilt other people were putting on me. It was guilt I was putting on myself. Breastfeeding is seen as the end all be all, and like, breastfeeding is great. If you can breastfeed, do it. I am so pro breastfeeding. I love breastfeeding, that I so much prefer breastfeeding to pumping. Like, sometimes it doesn't work out, no matter how hard you try. To just like let go of that like sadness of like, but I was supposed to breastfeed, is very healthy. I had so much stress and anxiety when my very tiny stash was dwindling and I wasn't producing enough. And then I got sick and dehydrated and wasn't hardly producing anything. And when I finally had to just give him a bottle of formula, it was like this giant weight was lifted off my shoulders that I myself had put there. And it was just like, oh, this really isn't that big of a deal. Like, I don't know what I expected. I don't know if I expected him to be like, what is this, Mom? This is disgusting. This isn't your like pure, beautiful milk. Like, I can't drink this. I won't drink this. But he did. Like, he didn't even bat an eyelash and he drank it. And like, there are so many benefits to breast milk. So like, pump all the breast milk you can, but do not beat yourself up if you have to give them some formula or a straight formula. Like, your baby will live and be fine and healthy too. There are all sorts of tricks out there to boosting your supply, and I've kind of touched on them, like massage your boob, and there's so many videos, so check them out. I tried a lot of things like the cookies, the teas, and like, I didn't notice anything from that realm. But one thing besides massaging that I did notice helped was doing a power hour. You're supposed to do a power pumping hour as many mornings as you can for like a week, I think it is, to send the signal to your body to produce more milk. And so what you're supposed to do, and basically you pump for 10 minutes, take a break for 10 minutes, pump for 10 minutes, take a break for 10 minutes, and you do that for the total time of an hour. and it's like when babies cluster feed, it's sending the signal to your body to produce more milk. And so that's another great one you can try out. I would try to get up before Theo woke up to do the power hour, A, because your milk supply is highest like really early in the morning, but B, it's really hard to pump when you have a baby that you also have to care for at the same time. And I would always use my electrical pump for the power hour so I could double pump my. Create a pump schedule. This one kind of goes without saying. You do it when you're breastfeeding. You're supposed to pump as often as your baby is eating. And so at first for me, that was every 2.5 hours. So I literally felt like it was a never-ending cycle of like pumping and then feeding him and then taking a very short break and then pumping and then feeding him and then taking a very short break. I found that pumping every 3 hours worked best for me. I got the same amount as if I would pump every 2.5, but just that half-hour break was what I needed mentally and emotionally. Whenever I would pump with my electro pump, I would try to time it during his naps, but I found that sometimes this one worked best when he was up and about. I was more mobile and I could do stuff while pumping with this one. Ask your sister or your best friend or any moms in your life 10 million thousand questions. Like if you know any moms in your life, ask them any questions you have, any advice, or if you just need to like rant and cry to someone about how sucky and difficult it is, like find that person because they've been through it or they've been through something similar or they know someone that's been there or they can at least empathize with you. So having a support system when it comes to breastfeeding, pumping, whatever it is very, very helpful. All right, guys, that is what I have for pumping advice and the mistakes I made. I'm going to be making a video later this month, I believe, about making this decision to stop pumping. It's a difficult decision to make, but it was a very healthy one to make at the same time. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.